Okay, guys, welcome to new, basically next UX Monday. It's funny because when we split the topics with Tobias, I usually should have like a Czech speaking, but basically Tobias stole the last one, so I need to create the English one. Uh, I'm so happy that like almost all chairs are like full because we are like this close to canceling this event because a lot of people like speakers are sick, but we will manage it. So welcome in this amazing space of MSD, which is our like pretty huge partner because without them we won't be able to eat amazing food and host these events. We have, of course, as a UX Monday and UX Association, other sponsors, which is Alma Career, Project Man, Amplify, which I will be talking about them a little bit on the end of the talk, Live Sport, and of course, as I mentioned, MSD. So, uh, what we are, maybe a quick poll. Who is first on UX Monday for the first time? Okay, chairman of the association, that's good. And like three other people, so you are in a board as well, I suppose. So we are hosting, I will be very short because like 99% of you knows that. So we are hosting basically a lot of events. Besides UX Monday, we're hosting I don't know if Research Tuesday is still alive, but maybe. But DevOps Tour, for example, which I will be speaking about them on the end of the event as well. So thank you that you are here. So basically, this is important thing. All of the things are free, so you can scan it and basically transfer money to Tobias account. So he will be happy. It's of course voluntary. All of the things what we are doing is voluntary. So if you can just like give us money, it will be helpful. So I will wait until I see like 10 phones up, and then we can continue. Okay, so for today's topic, how to create product roadmap that your team will love. I'm a CPO and I don't know how to do that. So that's the reason why I basically created this event and invite two amazing speakers. Unfortunately, Pavel is sick. He basically called me like yesterday evening that he won't be able to be here. But that's a good news because we have more time on questions and discussion. So Hansa will have a short present, I think, long presentation, and after that, we will be able to basically discuss the topics and answer your questions. So, if you want to have any question during the presentation, there is a Slido link. It should work. So please test it out. But I will be after the call. You can just like raise your hand, and I will give you a microphone, and you can ask face to face. After the event, we have reservation in a pub. It's the same pub where we were like last time, which is Red Piff. It's on the Angel near to the elevator to the metro station. So all of you are welcome basically to come with us there and discuss this or any other topic later on after the event. Cool. So we can start. I will invite Hans on the stage and enjoy your talk.
Hello, evening. Disclaimer, my name is Honza and I'm not sick. I just lost my voice during vacation that I came from yesterday. So don't worry, I'm not poisonous anymore. It's just too much good wine in Sicily, but it's okay. That's another story. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about roadmaps if this thing works.
Yeah, it should work. Is it there?
No,
Okay, it's technical problems.
I'll let my CPO solve it. So I think it's the first question, like, what's a roadmap for you, right? Like, what do you think it is? What it really is? Are you correct? Are you even in a position to own the roadmap? Maybe yes, maybe not. Doesn't matter. To be honest, like yeah, I'm a product manager originally. Now I'm product director. Not that it would matter. You just get more people management and more teams. So the basics are still the same. Roadmap for me should come from your strategy. Your strategy should come from your vision as a basic. So what it really means. I'm going to be talking about a product I launched and the reason why I was hired to Mews. In case you don't know Mews, we are a hospitality software provider. We are one of the unicorns, which is probably the reason why I was invited. And I'm going to be talking about a product I launched on my own. I was hired about 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago. I was on my own. I didn't have any team, and I needed to create a roadmap. So how was that done? So just to kick it off, all I got was a 2-pager from our CPO back then, which was mostly talking about business value and like the vision, why we want it and why we need to be competitive. So just to give you an idea, the product itself was about managing multi-properties, which are hotel chains, so Hilton's, Marriott's, multiple properties all in one bundle. We were liking that product, so we were not competitive against players like Oracle, against players like Cloudbats and others. So we needed to do that in order to get more market share. Fine. So here I am. One-man show for the next 3 months because I get team only after 3 months. And in fact, I didn't get a whole team. I got one PM, I got engineering manager, and I think that was it. So the key question is your product vision, therefore, is the roadmap yours? Is it the CPOs, or like what do you want to do? So of course, if you really want to be owning it and inspiring the team with a product roadmap, I think you need to own it. So the first thing I started to do was that I started digging into whether the 2-pager is actually enough and whether my CPO is actually right in the approach that how the product should be built. Because like roadmap is not a set of features. If you were talking to our competitors or to customers that didn't have it, they said, oh, just do it like Oracle does it. We don't want to do like Oracle does it for several reasons, for several good reasons. So there we go. Start a new product for hotel groups and unlock a new segment, months 0 to 3. So what do you have for start? You have lots of data, tons of data. Like Mews is really obsessed with recording every customer interview, measuring nearly everything. So in fact, you're not going to have the problem of lacking the data. You're going to have opposite problem, which means digesting the data that makes sense and creating something feasible from it. So my approach was to create my own hypothesis of how that multi-property product should look like, and it shouldn't copy our competitors. Of course, you're going to have similarities. That's all clear. But the data that matter, the hypothesis that matter, should be ultimately yours, and you need to own it. If you're not owning it, I don't think you can really say you're owning the roadmap, because then somebody else is owning it, right? So that was the approach. What you need to do, and what is absolutely crucial, is determining which data are good, which you're going to use, which you're going to not. So if you're going to speak to 50 customers, and I think I spoke to about 50 in the first 3 months, which was both online, both in person. So you go on, you are very hands-on, you need to visit them, you need to really look what they're doing daily. Then you need to determine which data is the data you can trust. So of course, if you're going to have these multinational customers like Hilton's, they're going to say, oh, just copy what those guys do. So you're going to get a huge feature list. And feature list is not a roadmap, or it's not a good roadmap that you can inspire with, at least for me. So of course, it's debatable whether you're in a position to have your own roadmap or not. That's another story. Cool. So here we go. Team assembled, months 3 to 9. So once you have the team, I think it's absolutely crucial to choose the characters that fit into this innovators mode or that have the innovators mindset. So ultimately, the old and new will clash. It will clash in terms of tech. It will clash in terms of we have never done this before. It will clash in terms of we have never designed it this way before. Oh, we actually have a new design system that we want to implement. Why don't you use it? Well, maybe because it's going to be 10 months longer then, but it's fine. So you need to have this kind of debates. These kind of debates are also important. Yeah. And the team that you have is going to be inspired and motivated by the roadmap and your vision, not by anything else. Because like, of course, you might have people that like to simply get a list of show me what I should do and just go on with it. But I don't know. I think I was very lucky because I got people in the team that really had a different mindset, and the people that were really bought in the idea of this is something new we can launch. But again, inspired by vision, that translates into roadmap. So I think the topic was roadmaps that teams love. Yeah. So I think that's like the best tip I can give if you are in that position again. And then once you have the roadmap, once you have it cleared, once you have it narrowed down, chances are that during your findings and validations, you came up across several good topics and several good problems to solve, because at the end of the day, it's always about problems to solve, not about what you launch. So what happens if you have 5 priority items? Like, we want this, we want rate management, we want user management, we want reporting, we want all of that at once. And you cannot do it because you don't have capacity for it. So you need to update the roadmap. You need to make it realistic, right? But what happens if you need to choose between two? Let's say you've got time just to choose between rate management or user management. Both is critically important. You have to bet. Now, you have to bet, but you also have to measure. Like, you can see on the findings that you've found from your research, from your discovery interviews, from your validations, the data that really matter, and you can see certain patterns. And I think you just need to trust one of these patterns, and you need to bet on the product that's going to be launched that is going to make it. That's again one of the tips. This is how it would look like if we would choose one of the key North Star metrics. So in our case, it was a reduction of manual work, because if you imagine the problem itself, if you have 50 hotels and you need to input new promotional rate, let's say the Christmas is coming, so you want to do Christmas package. If you have 50 hotels, you have to do it 50 times. So for us, the clear one was, okay, so let's say we save you time. If we save you time, you're willing to pay for that time saving, so you can then reallocate your people to some other work, right? So if you are a revenue manager, which was our buyer persona or one of our buyer personas, if you are admin, if you are GM of a small hotel, time saving is very important, because that means you can then put your workforce to spend more time with a guest, or you can put them on promoting the service or being more personal. Yeah. Of course, that was, again, a bet we had. So we compared how much time we could potentially save. I'm going to have a slide on that later on. And then we were measuring against that. So we had the lead-in, lagging metrics, all of that. Again, some of the outcomes are here. Roadmap should be always focused on outcomes, not on the outputs. Output. Output is we have launched multi-property. Outcome, reduction of manual work, increase in customer value because we got more money from it. But ultimately, you need to make sure this is something customers are willing to pay for. If you have very hard-headed PM who thinks he knows it all because he's been there since the beginning, or if you have another team member, then yeah, you need to measure that. And our process was as simple as this. This is pretty much how it looked in the beginning. We already have a new process, thanks God. So you've got all your customer interviews and insights in that top section. So you can see we had recordings from Dovetail, we had user voice where customers just give us their opinions and they vote for what they want. I think you know the tool. Gain size, Databricks, all of that. Cool. So that's where it all began. So it all went down to ClickUp. We use Jira now, or we actually started using it pretty early afterwards. Based on your strategy, you're just going to input the OKRs, goals, and metrics into that working backlog or into that one tool, and you're going to produce the roadmap, not in product board anymore. Yeah, nobody from product board is here. Cool. So, and of course you have Miro, but again, I'm just outlining this to show you that, like, it's not about the tool, it's really about how you come to the result and how you produce the output. That's again one of the most important things. And like, don't be hooked up by which process you use, how you map it, do you use, which methodology you use for product or road mapping. That doesn't matter at all. All that matters is, does it make sense? Are people willing to buy for it? Are you really solving the problems they're willing to pay for it? Yeah. And once you get the team buy-in, then I think you've won half of it. All right, so here we are. Launch and challenges. We basically don't accept half-baked solutions. We knew we couldn't launch MVP because customers would simply rip us apart. If they've been waiting 2 years for this and you're just launching MVP, you're not being successful. I don't think you did a good job as a PM. So this is something we wanted to avoid, or as a team actually, not as a PM. Then during that launch, and you might notice it's 14 months on my first slide, we were supposed to launch it in 12 months because we got some demands from big customers or the biggest customers. You just cannot avoid that, right? That will happen ultimately. It might postpone your launch, and then you need to balance and trade in if it's actually worth it. In this case, it was. So that's why this was postponed. But we don't let our biggest customers, therefore the highest paying customers, dictate how our roadmap looks like, how our future looks like. We just don't do that, and we avoid that. We're very much against it, because that means then you're then doing solution just for them, not for the overall customer segment. That's like, again, a very strict rule in Mews. And generally it should be if you can afford it, again. But luckily for us, it was. And then unboxing experience, or what I call unboxing experience. So once you buy the product, so the product is great, you love it, the multi-property is great, but how do you configure it and how do you onboard it? So in case you would be working in hospitality, the usual onboarding takes from 2 weeks to 5 weeks, depending on complexity of your hotel, right? So how satisfied would you be if you just bought something, let's say for 2,000 euros a month, and you need to spend 5 weeks configuring it? Yeah, probably not too much. So we knew we also need to input something we haven't accounted for before, which is the configuration and the onboarding. The onboarding itself, we have onboarding teams doing the configuration, but you need to get their buy-in. And their buy-in depends on how much work do they have on their roadmap, which is not your roadmap. So you need to do some stakeholder management and some convincing, and ultimately you need to make it company priority to support you. If you have better process, good. Of course, this is depending on the company side, but size, sorry. In our case, it worked, thank God. All right, and this is about approving the results. So since we've chosen our North Star metric as time saved, I'm just indicating the time saved, which is the yellow line. And we compare events that happen on the property level versus the new product, the multi-property level, week over week. So then we were able to say, okay, if you have two options and if you choose our option, is it better or is it not? We would be very nervous if we haven't seen the 80% and above, which is a target we set. In fact, I think we set about 85. But this is March, May, so this is like not that old. And you can see certain drops because of the seasonality and because of the way hospitality business works. But generally, this proves your point, right? In case you would after launch see that that the numbers would be dropping, then you probably didn't do a good job. Therefore, the items you decided you're going to work on weren't good. Therefore, your roadmap wasn't good. Therefore, your hypotheses weren't good. And it rolls on and on. Yeah. Cool. So how do we did it, or how did we do it in Mews? So one thing I've been mentioning is a lot of autonomy. So we really put a lot of autonomy in our teams. Each team is able to choose their own methodologies, their own setups, whatever they want. They just need to deliver the results. Of course, we check it. It's not like given automatically. We work in a product trio concept. So you always have a PM, designer, or leading designer, and a leading engineering manager or tech lead. And those three are in charge of the whole team. Ultimately, they need to decide and agree on how they work, what are they going to work on, and how is it going to be aligned with our company OKRs, strategy, and goals. That's, I think, absolutely crucial. We just recently we've just been testing out the mission framework for the past 6 months. So feels recent, so sorry for that. But I can tell you a bit more about that if you're interested. And then we need to have the vision. Like, having a vision really means you understand the problems, you understand your customers, you know what they want, you know what they're willing to pay for. Again, we're commercially driven. Maybe some of your products are not, that's fine. Just understand what are the main problems they have, and what are they willing, or what is the biggest pain point you can remove. That's I think, basic as well. Oh, and in discoveries and validation. Now, Mews is probably a company where I've experienced this the most in my career. And we really emphasize speaking with customers, visiting them in person, not just online. Of course, during COVID times, it was a bit difficult, but some of the hotels were still operational. Numbers, of course, dropped. That's normal. But then we discovered different products, how we can improve the revenues. When the hotels were closed for stay over, you could still rent a room for day use. You could still use the gym, private purpose, and so on. But I think especially the autonomy of the team and the trust in the team is important. Of course, you need to check it and it needs to be aligned. This is just a slide Scooby wanted me to insert because because this is his baby and mine as well. So we just started using the Jira product discovery. For us, it became single source of truth. If you remember that big slide with those paragraphs I was showing, then we replaced it completely with Jira product discovery. We replaced product board as well with Jira product discovery. And for us, it really improved the discovery and validation speed, and especially linking between different tools and sources. It really avoids us of being focused on which tool we use, which we don't. Then, of course, you have your internal IT saying what is allowed, what not, which is fine. But all that this means is that we're able to come to the results faster. Results of discovery, results of validation. Okay, and some final learnings. So as a PM, you don't always have to be right. I wasn't right in several cases during this product roadmap creation. You need to debate, you need to discuss, but you need to drive the vision. Like if you are a PM, if you are whoever owning the roadmap, not driving the vision, then I don't think you're going to get a good buy-in from your team. Then I've already said it, but make sure you really test what customers are willing to pay for as early as possible. Without this, there are several ways, of course. You don't need to code something before you start. And in fact, I would rather not see anybody from my team coding something we haven't validated. So that's, again, one of the approaches we use. Decide on your North Star metric because that's ultimately saying how good your hypothesis will be. Balance between leading, lagging, which is, again, my obsession with data and just measuring what works and what doesn't. And that helps with validating whether your roadmap for next and future phases is correct. So we use now, next, later, now being 0 to 3 months, next is 3 to 9, and 9 and whatever is future. But we usually we rarely stick to that because things change, right? So this all helps you in creating the future and in answering the question, so what's next, in case the CPTO or another one has it. And last but not least, like absolutely crucial for success of anything is your team, the people you work on daily basis, and what sort of chemistry and you have in the team, and what sort of attitudes you have in the team. Without it, like you can have the best roadmap in the world, but it's not happening. I can tell you that. And I think that's it. Yeah. Almost on time.
Cool. I like because my requirement was to have the talk in 20 minutes and you manage it. So this is the first product what you launch in time. So that's good. So guys, if you have any questions, there are two options. There is a Slido where you can just put hashtag UX Monday and you will be transferred to the Slido thing, or you can raise your hand. I will start basically with two questions on you. First of all, you mentioned some key metrics, what was on one slide. How early in the whole like roadmap creation are you creating these metrics?
Well, depends. In this case, it was after I had my first hypothesis. So I was able to discover the problems that customers want to solve, which was clearly like, we don't want to spend that so much time just doing things manually. So that was pretty early. That was like around the third month, but we really validated that it's the best around 4th or 5th month, as far as I can remember.
Okay, and like in like possible scenario, if these metrics would change, how much will it have impact on the roadmap? Or it's like, is the metrics only thing what you need to measure to deliver to the other parts of the company, to the management, or how big impact has this on the roadmap?
Unfortunately not. I wish. For us, since we're commercially driven, for us it's really about are the revenues good? Are people buying it? Do we have the best segmentation fit? Do we have the best product market fit? So this North Star metric for the launch is proving your point. It's think you begin your value proposition with, it's think you open up your sales talks with potential customers. So when you open up the conversation with either new or existing customers, usually like, okay, so we have this new product. It's called multi-property. Okay, what does it do? Well, it saves you time. Really, does it? How? So I think it's more like an opener. But of course, we change it quite a lot. And since we also look at ROI of our products, ROI is another thing to consider. Yeah, but that's not that much about. Well, it is about the roadmap, but it wasn't that much about the launch because we knew we needed it because we had a huge business customer depending on this launch.
Thanks. And my second question is, you mentioned that you segment your roadmap to now, next, later. And in the next sentence, you mentioned that now is 0 to 3 months and then like 3 to 9 months and something like that. So basically what it is, because I understand that your business team, because you mentioned large customers, they want to like create roadmap like in a month when this thing will be out. But then you mentioned like now, next, later. So what is like the main thing, how you build it? It's now, next, later, or it's like set in months?
It's now, next, later. Yeah, because it otherwise you would be so caught in the detail, and basically sales is always gonna demand very clear launch date, which of course changes due to several reasons, and potentially you just don't know. So you're basically saying, okay, I think in this time period we're gonna launch this and that. It might change. If it changes, you just communicate it. Like we have, I think we actually have overflow information in Mews, so we need to be very strict with changing the deadlines. But that's one of the reasons why we adopted the mission framework, because it gives much more clarity on when we are launching certain features or products and when we are doing that. When it comes to effect on the roadmap, absolutely, like the effect is huge. In case you would have several customers, not just one, coming in and demanding same thing, then we would probably change it because the roadmap is flexible, right? It's not delivery plan or project plan. Then you need to adapt.
Okay, thanks. Any like questions from the audience? Okay, cool.
Thank you. I'm designer, and I would like to ask, what did you do in those first 3 months? As you said, you were alone, so you worked as a BA, or what did you do?
No. As a PM mostly. So, well, I didn't really need to design anything. All I was looking for were some discoveries and like basically identifying the problems from the customers, right? So it was a lot of interviews. It was a lot of digging through the old information we had during the past 2 years, looking at the data and getting your own picture of like, okay, so how can the solution look like? And also doing a bit of technical decisions of how the final solution is going to look like, because there were several ways how to approach it. If you're doing the new multi-property layer, it was mostly about, okay, so we have three technical options, because you're creating a group of data or set of data, which we call clusters nowadays. And that was also about determining which one you're going to use. Yeah, but I had support of our CTO back then for that. So it was mostly discovering the problems, not designing anything, not designing UX, nothing like that. I wouldn't be doing that. Not that I couldn't, I just, it was too early.
But you dived into the data, so
I did.
work with the data. Okay.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. One question from Slido from someone named Anonymous. So, what method do you use to validate what customers are willing to pay?
Tempted to answer common sense, but no, we usually do. What we look at is really, we have 50, let's say, we have 50 customer interviews, and you can already see similarities. And you can see, okay, this is the problem that they mention the most. This is the problem they don't mention that often. Generally, you're looking for a pattern how to identify which problems are the most painful and where can you save the most time, and how do you know which these are from the data, right? Because you have a good look of or overview of your usage, of the way people use the product or how they use the product. So you're between users, revenues, let's say, and user management, you can already see, okay, if people spend 2 hours a day or a week doing user management, and if they spend 5 hours doing revenue management, then your bet would be that more problems would be at the revenue management level or area. So that's something you would then validate, right? And then the price sensitivity, that's actually a really good question. That's always tough because people are very open to tell you their opinions until you actually mention they have to pay for that. So we did surveys, we did in-person interviews, online, in person, where we would be saying, okay, so if we would solve that, how much would you willing to pay? How much would you be willing to pay for it? So we just did price sensitivity check. So we had 3 price levels or categories, and we just tested that randomly over the whole population of around, I think, several hundred customers. Yeah. So that was the methodology. Of course, you end up with some number, and you will always get a customer who's like, "I helped you develop it, so what do you mean I have to pay for it?" And that happened as well.
Okay, and what's the goal of the product, to like cross-sell your like current customers or like acquire new ones?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Upsell the current ones. I think we were opening a new segment of the chains or hotel chains where we weren't able to go before. So it was a bit more about acquisition in the new segments, but also upselling the new ones.
Cool. Any question from the audience? Cool.
Thank you. I'm interested, or I wonder to which extent research has shaped the product roadmap. In a sense, I know that you mentioned that at the beginning you did a lot of discovery research. I assume later on it was more like tactical research, so testing the. Not so much. Okay. So I wonder actually if you started with discovery research, but in those 14 months till the launch, has it happened that actually I don't know if you planned what will be all on the roadmap after those 3 months, but then you discovered new things and
Yeah.
it reshaped actually what was the priority and
Sure.
what to build.
Yeah. Yeah. So the roadmap definitely changed. So of course I kicked off with my initial roadmap for 12 months till launch, and then post launch, because I knew we couldn't do it all. So it was always about determining what is the ideal product market fit for launch, and what do we really need to launch in terms of customers adopting it and buying it and willing to test it. It has changed several times, quite a few times. So let's say it was always like 0 to 3 on myself, then I had a team. So 0, then I think between third and 6th month we changed it like a couple of times because we were always discovering something new. And then we said, okay, so hang on, we've got like 6 months to develop it, so we really need to make a decision. Once we made the decision, we were actually very confident that these are the best things to do. Did we discover something new during this 6 to 12? Sure, but we didn't change it. It just wasn't good enough to change it. And at the end of the day, the success would be determined of, are you able to really launch it in 12 months in the good product market fit, right? And there was this big customer that really demanded certain features. So that's how we did it. But the roadmap changes all the time. If the reasons are good enough to change it, depends largely on your company setup, on your team setup, and how you collaborate with business.
Cool. You mentioned many times your vision, and there's a question: what is your vision?
On the product?
Yeah.
Well, for multi-property, my vision still stands, so it was a good one. Now, well, my vision has always been like to become not the product is just a start, because with multi-property, what you're really doing is that you're creating quite gigantic database or data cluster that you can play with, and from the data cluster, you are not just saving time, but you're actually able to plug in many more data sources. So let's say you have a BI tool, which necessarily doesn't have to be from us, from Mews, and you still want to use it. You don't want to get rid of it. So we are able to plug it in. And this comes with other tools as well: event management, spa management, restaurants, casinos, resorts, all of that stuff. So you're creating one gigantic source of insights, and Therefore, you're able to translate it into some actionable insights. So my vision is ultimately to make the multi-property an entry gate for everything that's related to revenues for a guest. Because once you have all the data in, you're able to create not simple loyalty system, but way better system, which basically tells me, okay, so this is Honza. He spends usually 50 nights per year in your resorts. He likes to stay on high floor, non-smoking room. He likes to play golf, or he likes to go to swimming pool and wellness center. So why don't you offer him this package? Why don't you try to upsell him? Why don't you try to give him this and that upgrade? So that's for guests. For the hotel overall, it's the same thing. It's just like you're able to compare and benchmark yourself to properties in the same category. So I think there's IBIS. Is there still IBIS back there? Yeah. You're able to compare yourself to hotels in the area. And from that comparison, we can recommend you how would we change your rate strategy, or if we would recommend you creating any promotional package or anything to boost up your revenues. Or if there is any event happening in Prague, then the system should automatically know it, right?
Okay, cool. This was the longest one sentence vision of the product what I heard.
Yeah, I don't do one sentences. Yes.
Cool.
Become a data insight center.
You mentioned that for the first 3 months you work alone, and then you basically had a team. And so how did you set up the team? Did you assemble the team yourself? Or so what are the criteria we're like looking for the people?
So, well, the only person I chose was the first PM, and then like all the others PMs. We had a couple of candidates for tech leads or engineering managers, and I was just part of interviews. And I obviously it's more about, okay, I think I can work with this one. I think this one probably wouldn't work. And then we had a designer, and it was really about determining what sort of people are they when it comes to work. Like, what are they looking for? What are they motivated by? Is it really like innovation, or do you just want a steady job 9 to 5, if I simplify it a lot, right? But I wasn't able to fully take autonomy over that. I had no control over engineers, but I had a big trust in my tech lead that he's gonna do a good job. So again, that was like finding good characters that fit.
Okay, so it was like completely new team in the company.
Yeah.
Okay. Any question from the audience? Cool. We have a lot of questions on Slido. So you mentioned Jira product discovery, and like a lot of people wants to know, yeah, like if you can walk us through how you work with it. Ideally, show us.
No.
So walk us through. We have like 50 minutes. So
All right, great. So do you still remember?
we know the logo.
You don't know the logo, maybe. So it's very easy. All of this in Jira Product Discovery. But the main point, why we really did it. So our user voice had about, well, let me rephrase that. So if we would want to answer all the questions and all the product ideas in user voice, it would take us approximately 3,000 hours or something like that. So we said, okay, this is not sustainable. And people keep adding it. Not that just the people keep adding it, your competition or your competitors go into the user voice because it's public, or it was public in our case. And they just have a look at, okay, they are missing this, they are missing that. And they were just putting their ideas on. That wasn't the main reason. The main reason was user voice, Dovetail, and how do we connect it together? How do we replace this thing? By the way, this was used just by our team. Our IT didn't like it a lot, so we were pushed to use Jira. So unfortunately, well, yeah, we just were used to push it. So how it works, when you have an idea, anybody has an idea from the company, it's sales, it's customer support, anybody, and even outside, they just post the idea in the flow or in form that is then populated in the Jira Product Discoverer. Once it's populated, it automatically goes to certain team based on the topic you choose. So, for example, I don't know, multi-property to us, users to other team, reporting to us, and so on. So every team at least once in 2 weeks has a walkthrough, and it's usually the product trio, has a walkthrough of the ideas that landed in their web page or home, and they just automatically cancel some they know they won't be doing, and they usually reply to those that we know sound good or we require more information. So they just triage it, in other words. Once they triage it and once they know if the ideas are going forward, they're either contacting the person who put the idea up or who came up with the idea. And once they contact him, they're just trying to either dig for more information or say, okay, we think it would be nice to speak with a customer, because it's usually, if it comes from customers most of the time. And once we have that, we create another ticket from it. We connect it with the dovetail. We connect it with all the data that's for this case. We usually put it as part of a certain mission or certain area. So for example, again, revenues or unlock spa management or that sort of thing. Once it's there, it's part of the roadmap, and it's going to get developed in certain months. Quick version.
Okay, and long version.
We're just like basically kicking it off. So we're experimenting with it, but I think it's way better than what we had here or what I had here. It definitely connects several tools together, and the beauty of it is you can really then link it to all the missions. Because if you use the mission framework in your company, or depends whatever sort of framework you use, then you are able to connect it with the high goals, and you are able to connect it with the revenues you unlock or cost you save, and that sort of stuff.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So you basically built a roadmap from it, and there's a like interesting question: are your roadmaps like, we know that they aren't public because you
They
can
are.
set user. They are, so like everybody can see them.
Mhm.
Your customers, your competitors.
We produce public roadmap every 6 months. It's on our web page. I actually had a slider, but Scooby made me.
Yeah, hide it from
Hide
the
it.
recording, right? Because it's on the website.
It's on the website. So I think it's just recently we launched a new version, and we always communicate objective-based roadmap. We always have a look back at how we were doing. So we really are very transparent in this area.
Okay. And are your like customers have a different one, or this is for your customers as well?
This is for the customers. This is like public facing. It's not different. It's basically says this is what we did and this is where we're headed.
Okay.
And again, it covers the areas. It's not feature specific to say, but it's more like, okay, in the next 6 months, we're going to be investing here, here, and here.
Cool. And so internally, you have like much granularity of the roadmap,
Yes,
right?
yes, 100%. And again, not every team is on Jira. Well, actually, every team is on Jira Product Discovery, but that's been for 1 month. So
Cool.
they should be. Yeah, we basically, the thing is, we had some roadmaps in Product Board, some roadmaps in ClickUp, some roadmaps in Confluence, some roadmaps in Miro. So that wasn't really sustainable.
Okay, so you put it in one place. There is a question about the mission framework. So what is it and how do you use it?
Okay, so it comes from the fabled Spotify model, where they usually had a mission and certain tribes working on similar stuff. In our case, it covers a very, very large area. So let's say increase hotel revenues. And you have different teams that can contribute to these missions by pitching their ideas. So they usually create a very short idea of what would they like to develop. They have to basically say what's the feature, what's the cost, how long would it take, what do they think the outcome can be, what are the main benefits of it, and then it goes through triaging by leadership, which says, okay, this is where we're investing, this is where we're not. So the mission framework pretty much aligns our R&D, which is our research and development, pretty much the whole engineering, product, and design, and this determines what we're gonna be working on. Yeah. In other words, it's just an approach towards company objectives and key results.
Cool. Any questions from the audience? Yes. If you have a question, you can sit up front,
Yeah, sorry about that. You'll get the exercise, unfortunately. So this seems like it was quite a long project, right? 12, 15 months total, possibly. Um, and seeing this, it seems like it was quite a linear process. Can you maybe talk to any challenges, pivots, or dead ends that you've had to do in these 12, 15 months?
Sure. So the first challenge was to convince our CPO back then that the product idea he had wasn't probably the best. uh, yeah. But so that was the first one. But really, it wasn't that bad. It was about making sure you can prove your point and making sure you actually can show and say why you feel that this solution is better. Then we had many challenges with the tech side of things, because obviously when you're trying to build something very new on infrastructure that, or as a scale up or a rapid growth startup, then you really don't have time to handle all the tech debt in the world. So that was another one. And then we wanted to build it on a brand new design, using new design guidelines, using new design system, which was time consumable at the end of the day, but also challenged by some, because obviously if we did it with old design, it would be way faster, but we just wanted to have it. So I think the main challenges were really technical, or it was like gradual, right? So first you need to make sure that the product you want to launch does actually make sense to all the stakeholders, not just to your CPO. So you have to had some talks with the owner, with board, and you needed to present how this is going to look like. What's your business plan? To get a business plan from sales was also a challenge, because they were like, okay, is it going to be free? No, it's not. Okay, so what's going to be the price? So you had to determine the price that you feel is good enough. But from UX point of view, well, how do you convince the people that have been used several years to do things manually, and okay, I can do it for 2 hours because I don't care, that okay, now this is a new way, try it out and pay for it. Yeah. So that was a big challenge, but at the end of the day, I think we were pretty successful.
Cool. You mentioned like a lot of areas during the project, and there's like interesting question: where does your work end, and when the work of UX designer or researcher begins?
I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest. Like my work ends when I'm confident enough that I can let it go. Obviously, comparing to compared to this specific project, it was very clear that I am handing over as soon as I have a researcher, or as soon as I have UX designer, because he is better suited for that. But again, I didn't create any UX design. I just had a basic like idea of how it should work. Like in my case, it was also influenced by the fact that I'm coming from hospitality industry and I know the systems quite a bit. So for me, it was again how I would like it to behave. But then you have the big bias of this is my solution, which I'm trying to avoid. But researcher, I think we didn't have any researcher at the end of the day. We just had designer who had the skills and capabilities. I was digging through a lot of data. I don't know. I don't really think it matters like to have some specific roles here and there. Once you have somebody in the team, once you feel and you're confident that he can do it, just hand it over and go.
Okay. You mentioned data a lot. Basically, how would you create a roadmap for a new product without customers? Because you won't have the data. What do you
I
have?
wouldn't. How do I know what I need to solve? Like without customers, this kind of product undoable in my case, or in my opinion. I don't know, if I can just spend some company money to build what I want, then fine. But
I think like customers and users are two different things. Like you can
right,
find the
right.
users even if you are not your
Oh,
customers.
okay, I get it now. Fine. Yeah, yeah. So customers are usually the users. You have, but again, it depends. Usually have, in case you have hotel chains, you have a board that selects if they're gonna buy the product or not. There is usually CFO, CTO, or some IT admin, crucial guy, because then he's the one saying yes or no. And then there is, let's see, some operations manager or director is also important, because these are the people that are going to spend the time with your product daily. So we were interviewing them in fact, right? So if you talk to big companies like Accor, they've got 23 people in one room, and like just to interview every single one of them wouldn't be doable. So we just gave them some prototypes to play with, 4 different groups. So we just split it this way and then compare results. When we had different customers, we just had 2 people that we needed to convince. So it all depends. But yeah, you need some sort of validation. The customer and the user. The user is usually the customer in our case, which we were lucky with. Then, of course, you have these gigantic chains which have got long lists of what they want you to do, and you just go and you tick what you have. In case you don't have it, then we always ask, do you actually need it? And the response we usually get is, oh, we actually don't know. We just copied it from current provider. So like, why do you need it for? And you start a different set of interviews, and this is how you basically come to, okay, maybe they don't need it. Maybe we don't need to do it. It really depends.
Okay. You mentioned that the project was basically delayed for 2 months because some big customer asked for a crucial feature. There was a question: why did you basically like launch it without it and then onboard the customer later?
It wasn't doable. This was actually delayed not just because of that big customer, also because we had some issues with tech debt or with a solution that we wanted to provide. So we just decided to wait for 2 months to really polish it and to make sure it's in way better condition. We wouldn't be launching without this simply because the solution wouldn't be good enough and people would rip us apart. Because if we spent like 12 months on it and they've been waiting 2 years, that's around 3 years of waiting time. And to launch in not a bad shape is like, doesn't really put a good light on you and really doesn't build confidence in your company or in Mews in general.
Okay, so it wasn't like a one big customer.
No,
It
no,
was
no.
like, okay.
It was delayed because he wanted us to insert something, which we said we could, but he has to wait. Yeah.
Okay. There's a question: why are you no longer using product board? It's only because you need to like migrate everything together, or
No, not only because of that. We just found different tools which better suited our needs.
okay, cool. Any question from the audience, because we'll be moving to the finish line. Cool.
Thank you. So I have one like operational, I guess, and it would be about stakeholder management because sometimes I guess it's about building a roadmap, but then also protecting it. And sometimes there is a CPO who want to torpedo your ideas. And so I was wondering if there is like some maybe exercise, workshop, whatever have you done to like get the alignment around stakeholders and and maybe some ceremonies about how did you kept protecting it.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. We did a lot of that. I think it's better to over communicate in this sense than under communicate. So we have pretty active Slack channel. We were sharing the updates every 2 weeks. Then we were recording the videos. I think, well, in later stages, we were recording the videos of, okay, this is how initial designs look like, just to get a buy-in and just to keep the momentum and motivation of the people, because we indeed have very active stakeholders who like to comment on a lot of things. So I think ceremony is obligatory. Just post an update whenever 2 weeks, 1 month. The videos really helped because it really walked through. Once you have Slack, which is very active and text heavy, the videos really help because in 10 minutes or maybe even less, you're able to send a message and you are able to show the designs in one piece, which is great. And usually our stakeholders watch it on plane, as far as I know, which is good. But they don't read that much text; they would go crazy, right? And we had a webinar when we launched. We had some sales enablement sessions where we just showcased it to sales, got their feedback, got the questions, and then we just kept iterating this on and on. We also had like in our launch squad, we had pretty many stakeholders from all across the Mews. Like customer support wouldn't help you if you didn't really onboard them, right? So we had the onboarding team, sales, customer support, everything.
Cool. Thank you very much for amazing talk, and thank you for like a lot of questions from the audience. Please applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So guys, only a few, I will just reconnect my laptop again, and few information what you need to know, and then we will be on the way for the pub.
Vás tady ale je to super. Ahoj, já jsem Tomáš Ludvík a jsem organizátorem konference Experience for Business. Možná někdo znáte, někdo už byl. A rád bych jenom oznámil, nebo krátký sdělení, že hledáme řečníky pro ročník 2025. A takže jestli se tady mezi vámi najdou nějací inspirativní lidé, kteří mají nějaký super příhody z biznesu a designu, tak budu moc rád, když buď se podíváte na naše stránky x4b.cz, anebo mě třeba teďka se můžeme tady potkat. A už to nějakou chviličku běží, rád bych to uzavřel do konce příštího týdne, takže ještě nějaký čas je. A myslím si, že i mezi vámi dneska jsou nějací už lidé, kteří se přihlásili, tak klidně se přihlašte ke mně osobně a rád s váma zajdu na pivo, nebo se pobavíme tady. Tak jo, děkuju za pozornost.
Cool. Thank you. Guys, is there someone who doesn't speak Czech? Okay, cool. So basically know what those are. So I don't understand why I basically like do these events in English, because like we spend a lot of time for them and like nobody basically show up, right? So, but we will finish it in English. So guys, invitations for new events. So basically, you maybe know that there is a new law which is coming to play about accessibility, right? Accessibility Act. So our friends in Amplify, they're hosting on October 17th event about that. So it will be about accessibility, how to basically design apps for that and stuff like that. So if you're interested, it should be on Meetup, right? Yeah, so it is on Meetup. So you can find it there and just like be there. We will be there. We can chat about accessibility. This is like a question what everybody has, but nobody do. So it will be fine. Second invitation is, this Design Ops tool, what I mentioned on the start, and Michal was too afraid to come to stage to basically present it. So he gave me like ChatGPT list, what I should say. So basically, if you are trying to optimize your design process or like thinking about design ceremonies, basically write down, there isn't any date. So write down this topic, and it will be on a meetup, and you can join as well, because without the date. I don't know, the date should be on what? 21st of something. It will be the event. So you should October. Okay. So we have the Amplified, and like 4 days after that, this one. And after that, on 4th of November, we have UX Monday, without the topic, because the topic is a secret right now, but you can like write down in your calendars 4th of November, and there will be next UX Monday. So thank you very much for today English event for Czech people. If you are interested, we have reservation in the Red Pave on Angel, so we can go there, grab a beer, talk, and maybe eat some dinner. Okay, thank you very much, and have a good day.